Welcome in, everyone, to Fantasy Filmball. My name is Matt, with me is Dylan, and today it is currently, as of right now, it is midnight on December 31st. So we are just one day, we're 24 hours away from the new year, and we're reflecting a little bit on our year in film. This is the first year of our podcast and everything, and so yeah, we've been thinking a lot about our favorite movies of the year, and we wanted to share our top 10s of the year with you guys.
Yeah, as Matt mentioned, it's been a great year in film. I know there's been a lot of discourse and discussion about how good has this year been, and I think this is the best year since 2019. What do you think? Because there's been,
It's kind
like
of a
I
low
said,
bar.
it is a low bar. It is a low bar, but some people really love last year. And honestly, last year was a bit of a disappointment to me. A lot of movies I was expecting to love, I did not love, and this year I've had a lot of surprises.
Yeah, I mean, I've given more 10 out of 10s this year than I have in 2020 or 2021. But I think as for the quality of the films, if I look at the quality of my top 10, I'd say I really love I loved last year because I loved West Side Story and I loved Drive My Car. But outside of those two, oh, and Mitchell's versus the Machines. I don't know. I guess I'd say, yeah, this is the highest quality year we've had in the decade so far. But I think 2021, for me, is pretty close behind.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. So, I think you beat me, but I saw 121 2022 releases. I'm kind of scared to hear what your number is because you're probably going to blow me out the water.
Let me just see for sure, because my list on LETTERBOXD, my list right now has like 190. Not so. Wait. I have 192 on my LETTERBOXD list right now.
Okay.
But I watch 4 films today, so it's 196 right now.
Oh, you just came shy of 200.
I know. I'm disappointed, man. I'm disappointed.
You still have a day. You still have the rest of the day.
I do still have. I have a day, and I can break it. I will, because yeah. After we finish recording, I'm gonna edit, and I might. After I finish editing, I might watch a documentary. We'll see. So yeah, I could still cross 200 this year, and those are just 2022 movies. I have a problem, as you can see, but yeah, we're gonna go into our top 10s of the year. But beforehand, let's give some honorable mentions.
Yes.
I'll start off with some honorable mentions, and then you can start off with your number 10.
Cool. Sounds
so,
good.
My honorable mentions that I want to give that I could not find a spot for on my list. First off, Athena, which is a French film. It was on Netflix. It's directed by Romain Gavre. I butchered the name, sorry. But this film is absolutely exceptional. It is a massive technical achievement. I think it has some of the best cinematography of the year. This is a film. It follows a group of rioters, and specifically 3 brothers who find themselves on different sides of a riot in a Paris suburb. And the film uses a lot of long takes. It is exceptional. It has some of the most technically impressive work of the year. I don't know how they did half the shit that they did in this movie. It's incredible. Then following that, I've got EO, the little donkey that could. This one I've been hyping up all year long. I think it's beautiful. It's got wonderful music, and more than anything, this is from an 84-year-old filmmaker, Jerzy Skolimovsky, who proves with this film that there is no, as Quentin Tarantino talks about, there's no expiry date when you stop being creative, when you stop making interesting work. Because here, we're seeing someone who's genuinely breaking the form and doing something crazy and out there and completely different than anyone would ever expect. And they're doing it at age 84. Then I want to shout out Holy Spider. Holy Spider is a serial killer drama. It's a film directed by Ali Abbasi. It is magnificently acted. The atmosphere is off the charts. And thematically, it resonates much deeper than most other films this year. And I'd say, personally, this is the film that David Fincher wishes he'd made. Then I want to shout out Decision to Leave. This is an intricately crafted web. It's a puzzle of a film, and it's so incredibly fun to unpack this film over and over and over. I've seen it twice now, and I cannot wait to see it again. It is a wonderful film. And then last honorable mention I'll say is Matilda the musical. Dylan, I don't think you've seen this one yet. It's gonna be one of your favorites.
I haven't.
It's gonna be one of your favorites. This is like Cats if good. It is it's a heightened musical. It feels it is like the perfect Roald Dahl adaptation. I really like the Broadway musical that it's based on. I have seen it on stage a couple of times, and this movie does justice and even improves on that source material. It's so much fun, it's so campy, and it is lovely. So those are my honorable mentions. I will open the floor to you to shout out some of your favorites.
Yeah, as Matt mentioned, there's some movies I haven't seen this year, and Matilda's one of them. In fact, I had opened it on Netflix the other day to start watching, and I got sidetracked watching Among Us videos. So, Matilda lost out to Among Us. But that's one that I feel like if I saw it, could pop up later. And the other one I haven't seen I want to give a shout out to real quick is Causeway. I love Brian Tyree Henry. I love Jennifer Lawrence. This one I probably would like. I just have not signed up for another trial of Apple TV Plus. However, top 10 is kind of hard. As I mentioned before, I saw 121 movies, and I had 18 movies really fighting for these 10 spots. And I'm going to just ramble off some honorable mentions, not going very in-depth to them, but we have Women Talking. Great ensemble, great movie. I'm really excited to see it again once it comes out. This is one of the few movies of this 18 I've only seen one time. Also, the most recent movie I saw, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. This is amazing, and that's not me boosting or anything like this. To me, this is the best animated movie of the year. I know you disagree, but we can discuss that a little bit later. Here's where some issues came. International movies, there's been a lot of great ones this year. And I sadly could only find room for one on my list. So I want to give a shout out to Close, and I want to give a shout out to Bardo. Surprise, the Bardo lover does not have Bardo in his top 10. But you know what else doesn't make my top 10? This whole trend I've been saying all year, this is the year of the bees. We got Babylon, we got Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Two very fun, very energetic, very stylized movies I really want to put in my 10, just didn't have space. And the last two ones I really want to put here, I just couldn't find the room, and that's Jordan Peele's Nope, and a movie I championed very early in the year, saying this is definitely going to be my top 10, but as the years gone by, I've kind of thought about less and less each day, and that is Cha Cha Real Smooth, one I really want to watch again. I really loved it when it first came out, but I've not really had the desire to go back, and I think that does speak a little bit. So we each have our own top 10s here, and we're going to alternate. One person says their 10 and why, and then the next person says their 10 and why, and we'll go back and forth like that until we get to number 1. So, Matt, let's hear your number 10 for 2022.
So the first film that I want to start off with is it's a documentary. And it's a documentary that really deeply impacted me. When I saw this film at TIFF, I sat in the theater in shock through most of it. Because this is a film, it's one of those rare documentaries where you see life unfolding in a sublime way, in a cinematic way in front of you. The story goes in directions that it feels like a camera had to be there to capture it. And this is All the Beauty and the Bloodshed, Laura Poitras's Golden Lion winning film. This film is so absolutely incredible because it meshes together two completely different types of films. On one hand, I think this is the best version of an artist profile film that you could ever get. It takes you through the life and work of Nan Goldin and everything that she has done for the art of photography and how important she is. So you learn so much about this artist. And at the same time, you also learn about another side of Nan Goldin, about her as an activist, as we get this raw, intense footage in the current days as she's fighting and fighting and fighting against a mega corporation who is actively killing large portions of the world. It is an incredible thriller. It is a deeply moving story all around. And just in general, this is, in my mind, absolutely bar none, one of the best movies of the year. And I
That's a great one.
Cried so much at this movie.
Well, speaking of crying, there's a movie that made your honorable mentions list, and I had to redeem it here, put it in my top 10. It was a last-minute addition because this little donkey here, he does so much for you, and this is a movie that was hyped up so much, that being EO, and I didn't really know what to expect, but I loved what I got. It was definitely not what I was expecting, as I mentioned before. But the cinematography, the score, the direction, the editing, the pacing, and the drama and comedy, the balance in this movie, it all just hit on all levels. Like, I fully get why some people may not like this movie, but this movie really delivered for me on all levels. This is actually the only movie to make my top 10 I've only seen once. And I think that speaks for the movie and how strongly that I feel about it and how good I think it is. It's one that's currently rolling out across the nation and worldwide. I got the pleasure of seeing it at the Virginia Film Festival. Matt got to see it as well at you saw it at TIFF, or do you see it elsewhere as well?
I saw it via screener. I've seen this movie 3 times now.
See, EO, he just brings you back. He's so lovable. He's so caring. It's crazy to think how obviously there's so much talk around child performances, but there's not as much talk around animal performances. I know EO is not just one donkey. It's a collection of donkeys, but it's still insane to me how lovable, how much emotion a character can portray without words, and especially when it's an animal that doesn't really have any direction, doesn't have any acting chops. It's just natural, it's just raw, and that's what I love about Yo. This is a very raw, a very natural, a very honest film, and it packs a heavy punch. What's a punch I'm fully willing to take as many times as possible.
Awesome. And what's your number 9 spot? We'll go back and
Number
forth
9.
like this.
Cool. Number 9, we're flipping the script. I just talked about a very small underground movie maybe a lot of people don't know about, and packs a punch. Well, this next movie, everyone knows this movie. It soars over the competition. Tom Cruise, he's back. Top Gun Maverick. This is a movie I was not looking forward to see. Honestly, of my top 10, this is the only one I was going into not really excited. I was just like, I guess I got to see it. The reviews have been positive. I don't care about Top Gun. I watched the first one for the first time ever like a week before, and I thought it was kind of bad. And Maverick is great. I love Maverick. I understand where the hate comes from, again, but I don't think it's just. I think this is one of the best spectacles, one of the best blockbusters we've gotten in a long time. The cinematography, the editing, the sound, it all delivers on top notch. And say what you want about Tom Cruise as a person. This man is daring. This man will do what no other is willing to do in front of a camera. And I have to applaud him for that. And I am down for whatever he has in store next, whether that is a Mission Impossible, or if he wants to start another franchise, or even if he wants to come back for Top Gun 3. I'd be down for that. This movie, I love, and I'm not afraid to admit it.
Yeah, nice. I mean, Mission Impossible, Best Picture next year. We'll have to see.
We'll have to see.
So for my number 9 pick, I have to go with a mystery. I have to go with a murder mystery, and one of the most fun films of the year. This was not in my top 10 until I rewatched it, at which point I was like, yeah, you know what? If I'm thinking about this year in film, if I'm thinking about the best experiences I've had watching a movie, I can't not mention Glass Onion. This steps up everything that I think Knives Out did. It delivers one of the most airtight scripts that I've seen in quite some time. Every single little joke has a punchline. Every single little moment leads to something else. Everything in this has a purpose, has a reason, and beyond all of that, that would all be unimportant if this movie wasn't absolutely fucking fun. And it is. You know, I laughed my ass off. I was so happy to watch it again and catch all the little details, all the things that hint towards the eventual conclusion. This is one that I think I'm going to be watching for many, many years, and I can't wait to see what Rian Johnson does with Benoit Blanc next. My number 8 spot, I have a movie that I think you're going to be pretty happy to see on my list, Dylan. This is a superhero movie that I'm going to be honest, I didn't really get the hype around it at first. When I started seeing trailers about this, I was like, oh my god, do we really need another one of these right now? And then it hit me that there's an aspect of this character that we haven't seen explored. And that is that the Batman has never been shown as the world's greatest detective before. And this is what I loved about Matt Reeves' The Batman, is that we're not seeing an ass-kicking hero. We're not seeing a big action movie. Instead, it takes a lot more inspiration from film noir, from crime thrillers, and we get to delve into the dark underworld as we solve crimes alongside Batman. It's not about solving crime in like a kicking ass and taking names kind of way. It's literally getting on the ground and solving a mystery. That I thought was absolutely fantastic. Plus, it has amazing performances from Robert Pattinson, Paul Dano, Colin Farrell, and it has some of the most impressive techs of the year. I still maintain that I think Greg Fraser did a better job as cinematographer on The Batman than he did on Dune. Dune is also great.
Agreed.
Not to say that Dune was not great cinematography, but I would much rather that Greg Fraser win his Oscar for The Batman. And the score is great. Everything's great about this film. But I will pass it off to you at your number 8 spot.
First, I love how you had double mystery movies there. A nice double feature those could provide. And kind of keeping the trend with a mystery, we got a Bullet Train. And Brad Pitt, he still makes his way into my top 10 after Babylon missed. And Bullet Train's a great time. I understand. I guess my trend's been so far, I have 3 divisive movies that people either love or hate. And I loved Bullet Train. The comedy really worked for me. This ensemble, I really ate it up. I thought the stylized editing and production and all of it really just like kind of, I know I say this a lot, but this is a Dylan Bate movie. It hits everything that I like about movies, and it delivers it in a fun, energetic way. And it's one I was really rushing to see again. Like, I saw Maverick twice. I saw Bullet Train twice in the span of 3 days. And it's one that I just feel like sparks such a fun discussion when you get to have the conversation with other people who have seen it. Like, oh my gosh, did you see this coming? Did you see that coming? What was your favorite joke? Who was your favorite character? Like, is it this character? Is it that character? And I feel like one of the best things about Bullet Train is each time you watch it, you can have a new experience because you're looking at a new character from every perspective. You're like, oh, the first time you're just taking the story in. And the second time, like, oh, this part, that part, without going to spoilers, because this is on Netflix now. So what are you doing? Go watch Bullet Train. It's a load of fun. Mm-hmm. Following that up, though, at number 7, we have even more fun. Because what is everyone's favorite horror movie of the year? I'll tell you what it is. It's Barbarian. Barbarian is cinema, essentially. I don't really want to do too much spoilers. This movie's been out forever, but still, I feel there's a lot of people who haven't seen it. All I will say is go in as blind as possible. Let this movie take you away, because if you give yourself up to this movie, you will have a blast. You will be floored. There's funny moments. There's scary moments. There's drama. There's suspense. And there's just some great all-around scares, I guess is the right word I'm looking for. I just think this is a movie that's insanely rewatchable, and for a horror movie, that's kind of hard to come by nowadays. There's usually just shock value, there's gore value, but once you rewatch, like, oh, I know this scare is coming, or oh, I know this moment's happening. But every time I rewatch Barbarian, this is a movie I've seen 3 times now, I always pick up something new, whether it is something with the very subtle but very powerful score. The sound work here is very good. And if you want to talk about a horror movie that deserves a Best Hair and Makeup nomination, Barbarian definitely deserves it.
Yeah, well, on Bullet Train, this is one that my brother actually just watched. I got him to watch it because I was like, oh yeah, if you're looking for something really fun, watch Bullet Train. He loved it, so he'd be in support of this on your top 10.
Claps.
And Barbarian, that movie scared the shit out of me. I haven't been that scared in a theater maybe ever. So, but for me at number 7, I have to go with my boy Steven Spielberg, making a movie about himself, that arrogant bitch. But The Fabelmans is, I think it's a wonderful, wonderful movie. It was one that I had that thing that we were talking about with The Whale happen to me, where I really liked the movie when I first watched it, but I sounded really negative about it just because I was a little bit let down the first time I watched it. I watched it again, and everything that didn't work for me on the first time worked for me that time. This is such a tender movie. It's so humorous, and more importantly than anything, the thing that makes this movie really great is that it shows Spielberg's humility. It shows that he understands that he is still not the master. Spielberg is cinema itself. He is literally the embodiment of cinema. When you think of movies, you think of Steven Spielberg. And yet, the entire time you're watching this film, you can tell that he's basically speaking through this teenage character and saying, I'm still that kid. I'm still learning. And that final shot, not to spoil anything, but the final shot where the camera adjusts, you feel Spielberg himself speaking from behind the camera and saying, I'm still listening to my mentors. I'm still not as good as them, and I hope that one day maybe I can be. And that, to me, is a beautiful thing. Number 6, I have a war film that scared me to my core. I just told you that Barbarian scared the shit out of me, but really, All Quiet on the Western Front was the scariest film of the year in my mind. This film shocked me to my core. When I saw it in theaters at TIFF with a big soundtrack, booming speakers, and everything, it shocked me. There were moments where I just wanted to turn away, but I couldn't. This is a visceral film. It feels very real, very raw, and emotionally, it works for me too. I cried so much during this film because I felt connected to the characters. I felt connected to the situation. And technically, this is one of the best movies of the year. The cinematography is gorgeous. Additionally, it is also just like overall a stunning piece of work in makeup, costumes, production design. Everything about this film is flawless.
I fully agree about your points for both those movies. The Fabelmans is one where I was kind of mixed with the first time I saw it. I rewatched it, and I really liked it. And All Quiet on the Western Front, I agree. Text, amazing. I feel like if I would have saw that in a theater, it would probably be in my top 10. But I watched at home on Netflix, and it kind of hindered my experience a little bit. But this next movie is one that most people probably saw on Netflix. But me, I didn't see it on Netflix. I saw it at a film festival, and that is Glass Onion. This is actually our first overlap on the list so far, and rightfully so. Great movie. I echo everything you said. Amazing murder mystery, and while it may not be the most convoluted or deep story, it still really knows what it's trying to do, and it knocks it out of the park. A common theme on my list so far has been fun times. Glass Onion is probably the funnest of all these times so far. The ensemble here is great from top to bottom, whether it's Janelle Monáe giving a career best performance, Daniel Craig back as Benoit Blanc, knocking out of the park and I think elevating his character to a new level, or even some Dylan personal favorites like Dave Bautista or Leslie Odom delivering some very interesting roles, or Madeline Klein really surprised me, showing that, hey, she can do more than just that one TV show. Everyone here is great, and one thing about Glass Onion no one talks about, but I really want to give a shout out to, is shout out to Ethan Hawke. Cool role. Cool guy.
I didn't know that was him the first time. I don't know why, but I didn't catch it. Because people afterwards were like, is it true Ethan Hawke's in it? And I was like, what? No. No.
I mean, I had saw the buzz. I'm a huge Ethan Hawke fan, so I had saw the buzz. Like, okay, he's gonna be the one who dies. Obviously, if he's not in the trailer or like on the poster, obviously that's what's gonna happen.
You asked me about that. You were like, "Is Ethan Hawke the one that dies?" And I was like, "Ethan Hawke's not in this goddamn movie." I think
he's just a cool guy.
We said that. Like literally, I think we talked about that.
Yeah, he's just a cool guy who gives you your COVID shot or whatever. Cool guy. But Ethan Hawke aside, if you're looking for trouble, you came to the right place, because number 5, the king is in the building, Elvis. It's here. It's here. It's here. It's here. Bombastic, stylish, bold, dare I say innovative. And the best part of all, it's got Tom Hanks in that goddamn accent. Wow.
He's what?
He's doing something. He's what? But Austin Butler gives my favorite performance of the year in any movie, and that's one reason why Elvis is elevated a little bit. But as I mentioned before with Glass Onion, the theme of my list is fun. Elvis is a load of fun, but also is stylized, and Elvis has loads of style that it probably could shave off at times, but for me, it really works across the board. I very much adore the first half of this movie. The second half does fall off a little bit. That's why it's down here at number 5 and not a little bit higher, but this is one I think I saw twice in 2 days, and it really worked for me. I had never really liked Elvis's music before seeing this movie, and I think that speaks to a good musical biopic if you go watch it and then you become a huge fan of the artist's work and you want to learn more about them. I thought the ensemble here was very good. SAG ensemble movie? No. But everyone here I feel like is pretty much doing their best, and Baz Luhrmann can do no wrong in my eyes, and Elvis is, I would say, his best movie to date. Yes. My list, as I mentioned before, there's 18 movies battling But when we get to number 5, this is where it's like the best of the best for me. Elvis, through on out, are my favorites of the years. These are my borderline 10s, if not 10 out of 10s. Everything else was either a 9 that made the list, and some of those honorable mentions were an 8. But I will hand it back over to you for your number 5.
Okay, my number 5, this is one that didn't land very well with you, but for me, this was a film that when I first watched this, I was cackling. I was sitting on my couch just thinking, oh my god, this is one of the funniest things I have ever seen. And that's Triangle of Sadness, which is a film that I understand a lot of the criticisms about it. It is very similar to Glass Onion in that it is heavy-handed, it is not subtle, and it goes for the jugular it goes for the jugular, but not with a knife. It goes for the jugular with a sledgehammer, or like a very dull blade, where it's like not very sharp, but it's going for it. I just have so much fun with this film. I constantly say, whenever I bring up this film, I say it's like if Jacques Tati and Louis Buñuel made a film together. Like, they meshed together and made something. The physical comedy, the visual language of this film is spectacular. It is so layered and very fun. There's so much going on in the background of every single shot. The direction is fantastic. The assistant direction is also fantastic, which is, you can tell that a movie's good when you can tell that the assistant director is doing their goddamn job. And that's how I feel about Triangle of Sadness. They really, really did a good job. The 3 acts break up the film in a very distinct, very memorable way. Every single part of the film has memorable scene after memorable scene. Of course, the big centerpiece of the film, the Vomit Fest, is crazy. And like I said, this movie absolutely goes ham. It goes for it. And this makes it one of my favorite movies of the year. I have not rewatched this one yet, and I really am looking forward to it. So this one, easily one of my favorites of the year. Then at number 4, I have Sarah Polley's Women Talking. One of the greatest joys of this year for me was the fact that I got to speak to Sarah Polley about her film, and I got to hear directly from her. And that was amazing for me. And Sarah Polley is such an inspiration for me. She always has been. I mean, as a Canadian filmmaker, I have always really looked up to Sarah Polley and her work. So to see her film make such a splash, to have worked with one of the actors in the film as well, is like, it's such a surreal thing to see a film like this that I just love so dearly. This film has, I think, the best writing of the year. The lines in this film are spectacular. It just drops profound wisdom on you over and over again. The music of this film, Hildur Guðnadóttir, her score for this, it moves me to tears within the first minute of the film. This is a movie where it started, I started crying, and I did not stop crying until the end of the film, and then I waited with bated breath, and I stood up into a standing ovation. I was like one of the first people up because I was just overwhelmed with emotion and overwhelmed with feeling. The acting in this movie is bar none, it's the best ensemble of the year, and I might eat my words with that because later on I'm going to be talking about another ensemble. But personally, if I were to put this up at SAG against another film that we have here, I would go for Women Talking every time. The acting here is spectacular. This cast it's like the Expendables of talented women in the film industry right now. This is an incredible film, and I desperately want this to win many Oscars.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, Women Talking is one I've only seen once. I feel like if I watched it again, it can make a case for this 10. Great movie, great ensemble. I agree. I think it is the best ensemble of realistic contenders for SAG Ensemble. There's one I like more. I'll talk about that here in a little bit. But for my number 4, I'm going to break the seal. I'm going to break the vow. I am going to say the movie everyone's waiting for us to talk about on this list, and that is Everything Everywhere All at Once. The Daniels came with an artistic vision that has never been done before, and they knocked out of the park. Have I been the biggest fan of them in their past work? Not really. I've had some positives, some negatives. This movie worked for me on every level, emotionally, action-wise, drama, comedy, everything. It, for a lack of words, it was everything everywhere all at once for me. And This is one that I won't say the trailers really sold me. I was kind of skeptical going in. I was like, I see all this hype online. I didn't rush out to see it. I think I saw it maybe a week or two after it had opened. And I was like, everyone's saying this is so amazing. Like, is this just like internet hype or is it for real? And then like 15 minutes in, I was like, oh, it's for real. And the movie just continuously gets better and better as it goes on. This is one of the few movies this year I really think you can say that. A lot of movies this year I feel like start strong and continuously kind of slope down and then peak back up at the end. But this movie is just a gradual rise all the way to the end. It gets better and better the longer it goes. And I think this is the best blend of comedy and drama of any film this year. It meshes those lines so well because you could have one scene like the rock scene where there's such great humor while also you're like it's like tugging on your heartstrings as well. And as someone who is very close with my mother and a similar age and time of my life as Stephanie Sue's character in the movie, this movie hit very hard with a lot of tones that I'm currently feeling in life. So it just very much emotionally resonated with me. I don't really feel like there's much else I can say because everyone seems to love this movie, and rightfully so. Sadly, you talked about with your number 4 movie, you get to speak with the director. I didn't get to speak with the director of my number 3 movie, but I would love to one day. James Cameron, if you're out there, would love to chat. Avatar: The Way of Water is the movie of life. Us. Exactly. The Way of Water is the movie of life, and it's not my number 1. That's just because I gave out 3 10 out of 10s this year, and that's never happened for me. Actually, that's a lie. It happened in 2019. I'll live in that. It's never happened for me. And this movie's amazing. I think it's neat. I think it's perfect. There's nothing I would change with this movie. People talk about how a movie can like change your personality, and that's The Way of Water for me. Like you adapt to a movie, and this was the one for me. I fully am invested, fully care, fully resonate with the Sully family, with all the children, with the parents as well, and I cannot wait to see where the story progresses. This is one obviously Avatar doesn't need me to support for it to make money, but like this is what I just so wanted to succeed in the box office as well for it to be a good movie, and I'm just so glad that it's doing both. It's on track to be like the 4th or 5th highest grossing movie of all time, which you had this conversation 2 weeks ago, people would call you crazy, and don't doubt James Cameron. That goes for Oscars. That goes for box office. Yeah. That goes for just making good movies. This movie is brilliant. The cinematography, the visual effects, the sound, everything. The acting performances as well. This would be my SAG Ensemble winner of the year. I know that's not a realistic thing, but I love the acting here. I feel very resonant. I feel the water, as you could say, and this is one I feel like eventually over time may rise to my number 1, but because it is so fresh, it is so new. I haven't had the time to sit with it.
Number 1, actually, I'm very surprised.
It's the first viewing was my number 1. I saw it again, and like I've said, I've seen every movie on this top 10 besides EO multiple times, and movies have fluctuated because like Barbarian was originally number 2, and it's dropped a little bit on subsequent viewings. Glass Onion, same thing. Maverick and Bullet Train actually rise on their second ones and whatnot. And Way of Water has my favorite scene of the year, and that's the whole sequence of where Natiram is connecting with the whale and learning and bonding, that connection of being an outcast and resonating, and just the visuals compact with the emotional beats happening in that moment. That or the Suspicious Minds sequence of Elvis in the Vegas live show. One of those two is my favorite scenes of the year, and they both just hit so many punches. I've mentioned this on a review of Avatar. I could talk about this movie forever, so I think I should just wrap it up with James Cameron, give us the 9-hour cut of Avatar 3. I don't care what Disney says. I'll come out and watch it.
Perfect. I'd love to see that too. And another movie that I'd love to just last forever. It's a 3-hour movie that I think could stretch forever, and I would be so happy about it. That is RRR. The movie that whenever we talk about it, somehow we have 3,000 views in our video. This is a movie that people love, and I love it too. And I saw this in like the perfect viewing conditions. I had previously seen the 2 Bahubali films, which I absolutely adored with my entire heart. They're both incredibly fun fantasy movies that just blew me away with their creativity. And so I had been looking forward to RRR ever since it was first announced. I was like, okay, I gotta see this movie ASAP. And then it didn't come to any theaters in Toronto. And I was sitting on my ass looking for showtimes, being like, okay, why are there 5 other Indian films showing, but there's no RRR? Isn't this supposed to be one of the biggest movies of the year? And then I finally found one screening of it. put on in Toronto. And when I say that this movie surpassed every expectation I could ever have, it blew me away. This film stepped up to the plate with action scenes like I have never witnessed before. Every single scene was like the final action scene of another movie. In the first 15 minutes of this movie, you've already seen 3 of the best action scenes of the year. And all the rest of the best action scenes of the year are the scenes that come after that. It is like Mad Max level creativity, Mad Max level energy, and Mad Max level insanity in this film. S.S. Rajamouli is working like no other action filmmaker in the goddamn game right now. And this movie is like cinematic meth injected directly to your goddamn heart. I know you don't inject meth. Just roll with it right now. You're injecting the meth into your heart, and that's what this movie feels like to me. The Natu Natu sequence, I was screaming with laughter and joy, and that is what cinema should be. Cinema should be an experience that fills you with excitement and enthusiasm and feeling, and this film did it all. This is the type of cinematic thrill ride that I go to the movies to experience. And yeah, I love this movie so much. Number 3, RRR. And at number 2, on a very different side of the spectrum, what is it Nicole Kidman says? We come to this place for... What does she say? There, we come to this...
I go to Regal, so I don't know the AMC slate.
Oh, man, I've never been to an AMC, so... Canada problems. But when I go to the movies with RRR, I come to this place for spectacle. I come to this place for crazy action shit. With my number 2 movie, I come to this place for beautiful designs, incredibly imaginative worldviews, and I come to cry my fucking eyes out because Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio made me weep in a way that I don't think I have at a movie since Up. This movie made me cry so hard that I left the theater with my face just soaked. I was crying a lot during this movie. But beyond that, this is one of the most beautiful father-son stories that has ever been told. It is a reinvention of a fairy tale that we all know and love to some degree. It's a reinvention of a fairy tale in a way that is so creative and so outside of the box. And everything about this, from the design to the screenplay to the voice acting to the music, it all works perfectly. You can tell that this has been Guillermo del Toro's passion project for over 10 years. He's been trying to make this movie forever, and you can feel it. You can feel how much he loves this story, how much he cares about it. And that is why this is my second favorite movie of the year.
What's crazy is your exact description of Pinocchio kind of works for my number 2 movie, but they could be more different. I've mentioned already on this episode that this is the year of the bees. I had 3 in my honorable mentions: Bodies, 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 Bardo, Babylon, which, I mean, if you talk about RRR, Babylon kind of had the same feeling for me. And then I've already had 2 on this list so far: Bullet Train and Babylon. That's 5 Bs, and I still got 2 more to go. Because at number 2, we have Luca Guadagnino's Bones and All. Like Matt mentioned with Pinocchio, this is a movie that just, it floored me. I'm so surprised at how emotionally invested I was. This is a movie that did make me cry. I very much resonated with the characters here. I thought the work of the screenplay, of the direction, of the acting were all top level. Taylor Russell delivers a career high as Marin. Timothée Chalamet is great as always as Lee. And we can't forget about the one, the only Mark Rylance here as Sully. I mentioned the Sullys at number 3 with Way of Water. Well, we got an even cooler Sully here at number 2 with Bones and All. And what is just so impressive about this movie to me is how you could take such a niche, such a hot button, such a grotesque topic of cannibalism and craft it into, while you're not romanticizing the cannibalism, you can bring passion, you can bring romance, you can bring feelings of remorse and feelings of just very, very, very many feelings across the spectrum into such a topic. And I am just floored by the way Guadagnino is able to direct and pull these emotions from the actors, able to place the camera in the right moments throughout the film, and to have people be so emotionally invested and caring, because you can take a lot from Bones and All of what is all supposed to mean and what are the allegories and what are everything supposed to hit along the lines. I feel like no matter what angle you look at, it still works, whether you want to go from this angle or that angle. And this is one I would very much recommend to all. I would not consider this a horror movie. As I mentioned before, Barbarian's the best horror movie of the year. This is a romance movie, and it delivers on that the same way of Midsummer. Sure, it's a horror movie, but there's other topics you can go. You can call it a comedy. You can call it a failed romance, whatever. And Bones and All is the same thing. It's how you deal with the world's outlook on you while having to deal with your personal outlook on the world. And it's one I could talk all day about. I feel like I could talk all day about all these movies. But that brings us to number one. And we're going to go full college selection ways. And with the first overall pick of Dylan's 2022 favorite movies, we have The Batman. This is a movie, and it's a great movie. Matt mentioned before, Matt Reeves has done no wrong in my eyes. I am probably the biggest defender of the Planet of the Apes movies. Two of them were actually my favorite movies of their respective years, and he does it again, coming for the hat trick here. And Robert Pattinson delivers what I think is the best portrayal of Batman so far in anything. And I'm really excited to see where his Bruce Wayne goes in future installments. This is another great ensemble for me, and I think it's up there with Way of Water as my favorite ensemble of the year. I feel like everyone here is very much delivering career best performances. That goes for Pattinson. That goes for Paul Dano. That goes for Colin Farrell. That goes for Zoe Kravitz. They're all doing amazing work here. And this may be blasphemous because Paul Dano and Colin Farrell up for Oscars this year. They're up for the wrong movie. This is the movie they should be getting some
I agree,
awards
50%. 50%.
50% there. I can work with that. I can work with that. But as Matt mentioned before, when he talked about the Batman on his list, the score here by Michael Giacchino is the best score of the year, and I think it is one of the best scores of all time. It's instantly recognizable. It adds so much weight, so much power to the film, and I think will go down as one of the most memorable film scores from a blockbuster in recent memory in the coming years. I think the cinematography here also is top notch. I love the work they do with the immersive video screens that we've seen on some other films and some other movies and TV shows, and I think they really elevate it here to a whole nother level. The production design is amazing. The costume work I think is fantastic. I understand this is getting in for hair and makeup. I think the costumes are better than the hair and makeup because it's bringing I love how all the characters, Batman included, these feel like costumes real people could make. The Riddler's costume is just like a trench coat with some painting on it, like a real person would do. Catwoman's costume is something that she probably thrifted from Goodwill or made on her own by cutting her own clothing. Penguin's just wearing a suit. And Batman is not in the full armor get-up where it looks like he spent $1 billion. It looks like, yeah, maybe he threw like a few thousand, but it's not like he threw like a whole city's worth of funding into it like Christian Bale's or Ben Affleck's suit was. And I am just floored by this film. As you can see by my list overall, I love spectacle. I love when a movie really goes for it. Batman, Bones and All, Way of Water, Everything Everywhere, Elvis, they all go for it. They all wear their heart on their sleeves. And sure, there'll be people who say it's too much. It's too out there. But for me, all these hit just right.
Yeah, it's true. You have a very populist list. These are, I think, almost all except EO and Bones and All, which are a little bit oddball picks on your list. All of these films are movies that you could go and see with a huge crowd that would react together, that would... they're all audience pleasers, which is really cool. I like seeing this because this is definitely not the type of list that I would have, but I love it. I love seeing it. I love... This is why we have this show talking back and forth all about this. And so, I guess I'll bring it home. I gotta just talk about one of the most undeniable movies of the year. It's one that I know we've talked a lot about on this show. It is a film where we finally see one of the best actresses out there really flexing her muscles in a career best performance. Michelle Yeoh really gets to show off every single skill that she has ever gained as an actor From comedy to drama, you really feel for this character. And this movie, of course, is Minions: The Rise of Gru. No, it's Everything Ever All at Once. Dylan, you talked about it a little bit earlier. Everything that's been said about this movie, everything has been said about this movie that you could say. So I guess I will just talk about it from the perspective of what this movie means to cinema. Every once in a while, probably once every 20 years or something, there's a movie that comes along and changes everything. These aren't always the best movies, but they're the movies that they come along and they're so creative and so different, and they think they're disruptors in a Glass Onion term. They're a film that breaks the system, does everything differently. And then for the next 20 years, every other movie is just trying to play catch up to that. Every other movie is just trying to do what that movie did. These aren't always the most creative movies, right? There's some movies that are incredibly creative that haven't had the impact of Everything Ever All at Once. But I'd say the last time a movie broke the system like this was The Matrix. And basically for the last 20 years, we've seen people endlessly try and recreate the success of The Matrix, trying to do this sort of dark sci-fi action thriller. We've seen so many people try and recreate the success of The Matrix, from Christopher Nolan, who, I think he owes his entire career to the trippiness and the plot twists and the psychological aspects of The Matrix. I think Everything Ever All at Once is going to be the dragon that people spend the next 20 years chasing, until 20 years from now, someone finally has a new frickin' idea that shatters everything in the way that Everything Ever All at Once has. This is a once-in-a-generation movie, and I'm so glad that people are recognizing it as such right now. I was thinking for a little bit today about an alternate question to start off with, which I was thinking about movies that if they were released now, because we have a changing academy, right? We're seeing movies that never would have won in past years win. Moonlight never would have won in the past. The Shape of Water never would have won in the past. Parasite never would have won in the past. This year, if Everything Ever All at Once wins the Oscar, that never would have won in the past, but we have a different academy. And I was thinking about movies that have changed everything, that if they were nominated now, they would win. The Matrix, I think, would have won Best Picture if it was released right now. And likewise, I don't want to be too hyperbolic, but Citizen Kane, that's a movie that changed everything. Everything Ever All at Once is that kind of movie, and I just want to acknowledge how special that is.
It is special. That's a great movie, and I love both our lists. Like you said, there's variance here, and I think that's the special thing about this show, because obviously we could come in here and we could both agree Everything Ever was number one, or we both agree that Bullet Train's a great movie, but we have so much variance. I think it's
very
here.
fun. I think it's a very fun movie. I don't dislike.
That's higher than last time.
I don't dislike a single movie on your list. The lowest I would give a movie on your list is Bullet Train, which I give a 7 out of 10, and it's a strong 7 out of 10. So.
Yeah, I would say if I had to be negative and find one on your list, it would probably be All the Beauty and the Bloodshed, but still, I gave it a 7. So
I thought it was Triangle of Sadness that you were lower on, but yeah,
they're both down there. Yeah,
I really like your list. Again, it's a lot of populist stuff that I think is very fun, and it's all stuff I really like that just doesn't quite make my list. Way of Water should have been one of my honorable mentions. I love that movie so much.
It's so good. But for everyone out there, let's recap what our lists were. So I'll run through my 10 here. Number 10 was EO. Number 9 was Top Gun Maverick. 8 was Bullet Train. 7 was Barbarian. 6 was Glass Onion. 5 was Elvis. 4 was Everything Ever All at Once. 3 was Avatar: The Way of Water. 2 was Bones and All. And my number 1 was The Batman.
And mine was number 10, All the Beauty and the Bloodshed. Number 9, Glass Onion. Number 8, The Batman. Number 7, The Fabelmans. Number 6, All Quiet on the Western Front. Number 5, Triangle of Sadness. Number 4, Women Talking. Number 3, RRR. Number 2, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. And number 1, Everything Everywhere All at Once.
And as we mentioned before, our lists were very variant, but we did have 3 movies in common, which were Glass Onion, The Batman, and Everything Everywhere All at Once. But for everyone out there, let us know what some of your favorite movies of the year were. Is it something that neither of us mentioned, or was it something that maybe both of us or just one of us mentioned? I would love to know. But until next time, my name is Dyl.
And my name is Minions: The Rise of Gru. And you're watching Fantasy Filmball.